One of the most common questions we get, Seb, is whether I'm talking to people about the business, whether it's new staff coming on board, whether it's clients that have just come on board, is how do we even get started and why do we have such a different approach to other agencies?
Hmm. And I think our unique background, not coming from an agency space, really did inform a lot of our approach in hindsight that I didn't even realize. So we obviously met back a long time ago in high school, met on the rowing team, and we were different year levels. So you were the year below. And so we weren't that close in school, but obviously during rowing, when you're spending an additional 15 to 20 hours a week purely training with someone, you kind of get an insight into how they approach challenges and the work ethic. You can kind of recognize that with one another. I think that regardless of whether we were that close in school, we shared some sort of bond through rowing, and it wasn't until after school where I believe we became mates whilst you were in the ecom space. So for those of you who don't know, Nathan was running his own ecom brands, started off dropshipping model. I'll let him kind of speak to this story, but spending his own money across paid ads, across Google and Facebook, building Shopify stores and testing what works well, what doesn't. Obviously, when you're spending your own money as a business owner, you would know you need to be watching every cent like a hawk. And that really informed our approach to running paid media with that business owner perspective, with that more investor perspective, rather than just pushing buttons and seeing what worked and what didn't. But feel free to introduce the story about your background in ecom.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've done a lot of credit that pretty much sums it up, which is we were doing rowing coaching together, and then I didn't want to go down the engineering route, which is what I was doing at uni. So I started looking into the ecom space, started building stores, started running ads through Google and Facebook, started doing really well with them. But the one thing that really drew me to the ecom side of things was the paid media in Google and Facebook. So that's where we went all in on BlueSense. And I think the technical ability that we brought to BlueSense was a product of the fact that I was spending my own money. I probably spent anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in ad spend of personal funds. And so when you have even the first dollar that you ever spend, and I know you've spent a few dollars back in the day, is you spend $5 on ads and it's literally $5 gone. And then you spend another $50 on ads and it's gone. And then you spend $100 on ads and it's gone. I think a lot of people have had that moment. I think a lot of people have tried ecom or have tried ads. They've seen, oh, you can just run an ad and then you just make money. And then they run ads and they realize, oh, no money comes out the other end. And it's actually really hard to get the system to work. And so if you can figure out how to get the system to work on your own money, it really pushes you to like excellent media buying, which is one of the foundational pillars that allowed us to scale BlueSense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I did spend a few grand poorly from your push to start getting into the space on the weekends, and yeah, it didn't work so well. And that's how we dove in. So obviously Nathan was running his own paid media accounts and wanted to do it for other brands, and that's when we got together. And I believe Nathan was less so interested in the business development, the client management side of things to begin with anyway. And he just wanted to do the technicals for other brands. And that's when we got together. I had no experience in sales or marketing, but I had a really, really strong belief in Nathan's abilities just through our conversations over the prior few years of him running ecom. But to go a bit further in our background, Nathan mentioned that his background was in engineering. That was the path he was going down, and mine was in economics. So again, not marketing backgrounds. And I think once again, that helped us identify a gap that traditionally limits a brand's ability to grow. And that's the gap between finance and marketing. And that's why our approach, our focus is more so coming in as a partner, really getting an understanding of the business behind each brand, and then taking a look at their business economics, and then from there, defining what the acquisition strategy will be on paid media, rather than just looking into an ad account seeing how we can juice up ROAS and then hope to scale without really a firm understanding of what are we doing when it comes to new customer revenue? What are we doing when it comes to our customer acquisition costs in relation to the back end LTV of each customer, whether that's new or existing? So, do you have any thoughts around why we're so firm on really understanding and really helping ask our clients the right questions on the finance piece? Because unfortunately, I'm still blown away by how many operators neglect the importance of tying in their finance and marketing teams. So what are your thoughts on our approach there?
For sure. I think there's a lot to talk about there. When it comes to the finance piece, what you realize pretty quickly when you start working with a large breadth of e-commerce brands is that all of the big ones operated at 1.5 to a 2.5 ROAS in platform. And when you see that, you start to go, how is that even happening? And you pretty quickly realize that they're so dialed in on their numbers that they know that they can acquire customers at break even. And then they have this strong retention strategy, which allows them to juice out 20% net margins on the business as a whole. And so all of these brands that are just looking in platform, trying to squeeze out a 10 to a 12 ROAS, and also being confined within the limits of the ad account, which has a lot of its own issues in itself. Most of the time there's over attribution. A lot of the time there might be under attribution. It limits your ability to make more strategic, high level decisions as to where you should be pushing the marketing strategy as a whole. And I hate using the word holistic because everyone suddenly uses that word now. And especially in marketing, everyone just throws holistic out, but it really, there is value in looking holistically at the entire strategy and then making decisions accordingly, particularly with the way that customers pathway across platform. Yeah. And I think from us coming from not an agency background also has allowed us to not have limiting beliefs as to how an agency should operate. I think it equally has its disadvantages somewhere there, which is the fact that we didn't see how an agency should be technically run or how a standard agency runs. But on top of that, it gave us a lot of new beliefs that weren't limited by the fact that we were in a preconceived company structure that was running for years on end that we were just slotted into. And so we came in and we looked at a lot of things, and a lot of people started joining the team and started asking the question, I can't believe you guys do it like this. All the other agencies that I've worked with do it like Y, but you guys are doing it like X. And it's like, why would they do it like Y? I've never even thought of that. And then they went, yeah, I don't know why they were doing that either. So I think that also gave us a huge advantage as well in terms of having that e-com finance background, being really numbers orientated, always looking at, are these businesses actually making money on a month-to-month basis? And then also not having those limiting beliefs as to how we should be structuring and working with clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a big part of our approach beyond where our specialty is and our approach is sort of aligning, marrying up business economics with performance marketing to drive growth that is profitable, that is sustainable for our clients, is the client experience side of things. So how we do our reporting, how we communicate with our clients, because when we're working closely with a partner, for them to be able to share the nuances of the business or to feel comfortable sharing the economics and the finance side of the business with us, we obviously need to earn their trust, and we need to prove that we genuinely care about their long-term success on a week-to-week basis. And so, again, coming in, not from an agency background, I was shocked by, when I first started calling people early days on the sales front, I was just getting nowhere. There was just an insane degree of mistrust towards whenever I mentioned the word marketing, whenever I mentioned the word agency, digital marketing, it was just usually a quick no or a hang up or some spiel about how they've been burnt and fleeced before, which was a shock to me. And so Nathan mentioned Nathan said sometimes coming in from not an agency background hasn't served us so well. And I think that one of the parts is not knowing how poorly or how widely agencies have traditionally failed to earn that trust and prove that they genuinely care about each of their clients over the long term. And that's why, quite quickly, just from a data approach, we were like, this works if we just build a really strong relationship. We provide a client with reliable reporting and thoughtful recommendations. We explain the why behind our decisions, and then that empowers them to make high quality decisions from a business level. And then in turn, we earn their trust, and then they can give us back the information we need to continue supporting them. And we also get a lot of autonomy because of that trust as well. And so, do you want to kind of speak to your thoughts around why we have such a firm commitment to such a building such a strong client experience?
Yeah, from the get go, we've always targeted 100% retention. Like I don't think we've ever targeted anything less than 100% retention, and the logic always being that we want to grow with the partners that we're with. And on top of that, anytime we take on a new client, it's a burden to everyone. No client wants to leave their agency and join another one. And anytime you onboard a new client, it's an enormous amount of work because we have to build all that trust back up. And as you were saying, one of the biggest pieces that we have is we build an immense amount of trust with our clients by genuinely caring. And I think that comes from the instilled values that you and myself have, and that what we instill within the company from a top-down level. But in addition to that, the business that always wins in the long term, arguably the person as well, that always wins in the long term, is the one with the most goodwill. And in the short term, you can scale quicker through any kind of tactic you want. You can push 70 grand a month into ads. You can have a cold outbound team that's a team of 10, and you're calling every single business and you're getting clients through the door. But at the end of the day, your reputation is what is going to cause or be the detriment of long-term success. And I think in fact, I know that we were lucky enough to realize that within like 2 days of starting the business. It really didn't take long. And I think it was the product of us fortunately stumbling across some good content, some good books, some good podcasts that forced that realization into us. And so from day dot, we've always realized that our reputation is the most important piece of Blue Sense. The company's reputation is the most important piece of Blue Sense. And so upholding that through the best client service delivery that we can possibly give is always the number one priority. And the only exponential sales channel is word of mouth. Because if you spend an extra $1,000 on paid ads, you'll get an extra client. But if you make 5 clients happy, they tell 5 people, and then those 5 people take 5 people, and those 5 people tell 5 people, and suddenly you have exponential growth. But it's a long-term play. And most people aren't willing to make the long-term play. Another important thing that you said there was, we didn't realize when we started Blue Sense that we went into probably the most saturated market on the planet, which is e-com paid ad agencies. And the reason why it's the most saturated market on the planet is because the barrier to entry is so low. Literally anyone that is living at home with their parents could go and turn their computer on and create a website and say that they're now a digital marketing agency. Can they get clients? I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough, especially because of how saturated the market is. But anyone can do it. And if you have one core skill, you can normally scale it to something of a little bit of size. Like if you're a really, really good salesperson, you can probably get a few clients. And that's what saturates the whole market. So the thing that I think made us stand out from the get-go was our commitment to excellent service delivery, which isn't the case because of that low barrier to entry. Anyone can come in and just push a service and have no idea whether the service is actually any good. And then it ruins the reputation for the entire industry, which makes it really hard for us to sit here and say, hey, we actually have really, really, really good service. And then people are like, yeah, sure you do. Like I've heard that from like 99 other agencies. And it's like, no, but like we do, and we're committed to it, and we're growing slowly, but there's only so much you can do on the sales side, and it's only reputation through excellent service delivery that's going to build that growth long term.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 1 in every 3 clients that we onboard now is a referral, because they, even in such a short time frame that we've been around, a little under 3 years, we're getting 30% of our new customer acquisition ourselves from referrals, whether that's through clients or people in the industry that see our work, and they have possibly a shared client if they're a specialist in email marketing, whatever it might be, and then they make an introduction because they've seen our work on the back end, and then they feel comfortable, making that introduction to us. And as Nathan said, we grow really quite slowly. I think for the past little under 3 years, as I said, we're just a drop in the ocean when it comes to the agency space. We're relatively unknown, and that's because we've just been working in silence, focusing in tremendously hard on, number 1, insane technical proficiency as a team capability, and number 2, incredible service delivery, so that our client base, if we just had to rely on our existing portfolio to grow, that we could do that because of the word of mouth from our existing client base, because they feel so strongly that our team genuinely cares about their growth, and they see us as an integrated partner within their team.
For sure. What's the future look like? What's the vision?
So that's hopefully quite unique in the agency space. One thing that we've held each other really accountable for is maintaining focus on what we do well and not chasing shiny objects, which again is an issue that we also see on the e-com on the client side. But what we do incredibly well is scaling paid media for e-com brands, having a firm understanding of brand economics and how does that inform our acquisition strategy. And so we're going to continue fleshing out that capability and having an environment where people can come to learn that, but at the highest levels. And so our vision long-term is to really build the Harvard of agencies. Over the course of hundreds of interviews, especially in the last 6 months, we've both identified 2 clear missing pieces. Number 1 is empathy, a lack of care and a lack of heart for the people that are working for agencies. And that bleeds into number 2, which is a lack of focus on the development of the individual, professionally, personally, and at a team level as well. And so we need to make sure that we continue building out extensive training and offer clear development pathways for everyone at all levels of the organization. That's entry level all the way up to the senior leadership level, which is a big focus of ours. And in building the Harvard of agencies, we want to build a place that young professionals work tirelessly to get into, that passion, hard work, and dedication is allowed in the first place, championed and rewarded, that the most compelling challenger brands around the world look to recruit from as a poaching ground, a place that whilst you're here, you take pride in your work and you push yourself to raise the bar every day, and by default you push each other. But also, if you do end up moving client side down the road, you're an alumni of Blue Sense and you're proud to call yourself an ex-employee of our company. And then just at an industry level, to continue bridging the gap that limits a lot of brands' abilities to grow, we want to offer ourselves as a resource for other companies and other agencies to look to learn from and educate themselves through events, content, resources, and guides that we continue to offer. So that's the long-term vision, building the Harvard of agencies. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add there is regarding the training program. You said that one of the clear things that we identified within the hundreds of interviews that we've done, the hundreds of different performance marketers in Melbourne, Sydney, Queensland, is there's a huge gap between if someone goes to one agency and what skill level they're at after 2 years, and if someone goes to a different agency. And what we've found to be a resounding truth is anyone that works at BlueSense tends to accelerate significantly quicker than anyone else from a technical perspective as well as from a client facing perspective. And that really is attributed to number one, the training program that we've put in place, but number two, the immense amount of support and resources that we put to performance marketers. So you aren't just supported by myself, but you're supported by a senior. You're likely supported by multiple seniors. And then there's this cross collaboration within the team where performance marketers are always encouraged to be hopping on calls, to be communicating about accounts, to be voicing what they're seeing work so that we can have this continuous learning, which plays into one of our core values being curiosity. With the training program over the long-term vision, we want to flesh it out to be the most curated, extensive training program that spans across literally longer than a year for performance marketers as well as for senior performance marketers that come onto the team. So there are training modules on a week-to-week basis for 52 weeks into the future. We have all of this content backlogged, accompanying with action items that follow it up. So there's actually in-person engaging training sessions in addition to our weekly training sessions that we already do as a company, to be accelerating learning as quickly as possible so that we can take people from essentially ground zero straight out of uni or maybe straight out of another agency or maybe a few years in a slightly different career pathway. And we can take them to be absolutely excellent senior performance marketers within a 1 to 2 year time horizon.